Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables. I'm your host, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you doing tonight?
You just pointed the wrong way.
Wait, that's the right way on my screen.
I don't
What?
think that's true. Yeah.
That's the right way it is on my screen.
You looked really dumb.
Okay, but I looked right
you
on
looked
my
like
screen.
what is it? Who was it? The dude. It was like Jimmy Kimmel, Usher. When they did like the "We Are the Champions" thing, and they clearly told him he was going to be in the middle, so he's looking around.
Yes.
But he's like on the bottom left-hand corner.
Yes. No, on my screen, that's right. Like I'm pointing to you on my screen, which is
you were
weird.
Pointing the opposite way.
Good. That's good.
So, yeah.
How are you doing?
Good. We were just exploring the Chinese TikTok thing.
Xiaohongshu.
Yeah. So, well, don't speak in Chinese because we're gonna get like shadow banned from everything.
That's
something.
the name of it. I'm not. I don't want to use its Americanized name. We're using their app.
I know. I'm just saying. I don't want to get like shadow banned. Like I don't know. The FBI is gonna show up at our house or something.
Duncan had never had a TikTok before, but he will be on the new.
I had TikTok. I just never went on it. Yeah, that's yeah. I was pissed off. They didn't let me use the username I use for everything.
Did someone steal it?
No, they were like, it's inappropriate. How about no? So it pissed me off and I never went back.
Okay, that's kind of fair.
No, it's a pretty bad reason, but it is.
Yeah, I'm very upset about it. I have like 4,000 saved crafts that I was totally going to try like this week, but now they're taking it away. So like,
wow. You got 5 days left,
yeah,
something like
exactly.
That. So
yeah, Saturday, Sunday, something like that.
You never know.
I never know. Anyway, welcome back. We have a lot to discuss. We are in the midst of playoffs, and we have 6 current head coaching vacancies and 1 head coaching seat already filled. So we're going to jump right in to talk about one little piece of news from today, which is that Deontay Johnson was claimed again by the Ravens. So he has again by the Ravens. So he now has a chance in the playoffs. And you want to read your next one?
Yeah. So obviously we haven't been here for a while, and we've been very inconsistent lately, but I don't want that to ruin my moment. Saquon Barkley rushed for 2,000 yards, had a chance sort of almost to break the all-time rushing record. The Eagles decided not to do it. We're not going to get into that discourse because it's too far gone at this point.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like it. But I was so happy when he became a 2,000-yard rusher. And honestly, I just couldn't wait to get back on this podcast and just say it to Ashley. It felt really good.
Yeah.
So, and he's
because
just
you know
so
how
happy.
painful it is. I wish I hated him. I really do.
Yep.
I really wish I hated him. I own his shoes. I own his shirts. I'm a Saquon Barkley fan till the day I die. And unfortunately, he's just an Eagle.
It's crazy. When he goes into the Hall of Fame, it's going to be as an Eagle.
Yeah,
Wild.
Great.
Wild.
I am really happy for him. Like even he has been an incredibly down-to-earth player who has been for the good of the team, especially while he was with the Giants. Kept his head down, kept his mouth shut, was always for the, whatever works best for the team type of guy. So I am very happy for him on a personal note. On a personal note, for me, that was quite a miserable season. Is still quite a miserable season.
I had a great time, personally.
I'm so glad you did.
Thank you.
So glad. We had our wild card matchups. One which was relocated, one which featured a team with a 14-2 record. Was that the exact record? 14-2?
No, 14-3.
14-3. Yeah, sorry. 14-3. In a wild card matchup, it was quite a bit going on here. So why don't we start with our first game, which is the Texans and Chargers, which happened on Saturday. The Texans beat the Chargers 32-12. the Texans move on to play in Arrowhead Stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday.
They are, the 3:00 game on Saturday.
Yep, 4:30 Saturday.
Oh,
all right,
game.
4:30. Yeah, 4:30. Very, very Los Angeles Chargers type game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's start talking about the Chargers. We're gonna get to the Texans a
Yeah.
little bit, obviously, when we talk about the upcoming matchups.
Yeah.
Obviously, we weren't here last week.
Yep.
Be honest with yourself. Who would you have picked to win this game?
Probably the Chargers.
That's who I had.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if they were actually favorited, but that's how it felt.
Either way, it was like a 1 or 2 point spread, I think. But
yeah, which after the home field, 3-point swing.
Yeah.
The Texans season was going pretty horribly, despite their record, despite winning a very bad division. The Chargers were the complete opposite, and then that happened. Justin Herbert seemingly throwed about 1,000 interceptions. Other than Ladd McConkey, no one did anything, really. The defense was not good. The offense was worse. It was not what I think everyone was expecting to see out of the Chargers that we saw the rest of this season.
No, I mean, there was a non-existent running game. I mean, J.K. Dobbins ran for 9 times for 26 yards. Gus Edwards, 7 for 22. They couldn't get a run game going against the Texans, which has been a tough thing to do. The Texans built up their defensive front over the offseason. And you and I had talked about that in the offseason, that we really liked the way the Texans were building the trenches, right there, especially the defensive front. So that worked for them. But I didn't expect to see Ladd McConkey with 197 yards and the next closest be Will Dissly with 16. That you can't win a game like that. You never can. Like it becomes quite an impossible feat. They had Khalil Mack, who had 2 sacks. Joey Bosa had a sack. You leave there with 3 sacks and really nothing much else to show for it. Cameron Dicker went 2 for 2, but it's just like I would say I am higher on the Chargers than I was to start the season when Harbaugh was hired. I wasn't quite confident. Okay. I do think they need to really have some introspection about the season and about how they want to build the offense more around Justin Herbert. I think they have failed in that regard in skill positions. The defense is what the defense has been, and we knew that was what it's going to be. But the offense was miserable. That game was miserable to watch on their end.
Yeah, I think looking at their whole season, I think I picked them to win, and I was higher on them than I started the season, much like you. But at the same time, if you told me that this is how their season was going to end, I don't think if you told me this, 4 months ago, I don't think I would have been overly surprised, mostly just because I didn't think they had the firepower on offense. Ladd McConkey was their number 1 option by far, and I'm sorry, that's not a recipe for success. A first-round rookie being the only respectable part of your offensive skill players. J.K. Dobbins had a good year, but he's J.K. Dobbins. We know who he is, and
he's hurt.
You
all
can't
the time.
rely on him. Exactly. You've got some aging tight ends, Quentin Johnson, who shows up sometimes, and that's great. But again, you've got nothing reliable outside of Justin Herbert on offense and a pretty good offensive line. They didn't exactly play like it, but I think I'm hoping that looking forward, we're going to be able to view this year as for what it is, which was they had a depleted offensive team because they got rid of, they lost Mike Williams. They got rid of Keenan Allen. They had a lot of big contracts on defense as well.
Yep.
I never viewed this going into the season. I never viewed it as, hey, they're going to be competing for a Super Bowl. But
Agreed.
It is building towards whatever Jim Harbaugh wants it to be. But I think what's going to be more interesting going forward is, we talked about this last year, and obviously this isn't the end-all be-all, but at what point are people going to start viewing Justin Herbert for the career he's had and not the career that people think he's going to have?
Yeah.
I remember we had this conversation last year, and it was simply you and I would both agree he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, probably top 5, depending on the day. But he hasn't done anything that matters. Not really in the league. And
Yeah.
he needs a better team around him. There's a lot of reasons for that, but other players are held accountable in the same regard, quarterbacks all the time. So, and it's not like he played a good game either. He threw a
No.
lot of interceptions. It's not like he balled out, and like Joe Burrow all season was balling the F out, and his defense was giving up 80 points a game. Like, this was not that. Yeah, the defense wasn't good, but Justin Herbert didn't help them. So it's going to be an interesting conversation that I'm sure is going to come up constantly, and I don't feel the need to dig too deep into it right now. But I think that's my biggest mystery going forward.
Yeah,
for the Chargers.
People love to make the joke that he's like a first ballot Hall of Famer in what if games.
Yeah.
And then my last point is that I don't know that I'm trusting Greg Roman moving forward. I don't love. I think I love what he's done with the offensive line. I do, but a lot of that is still with drafting and free agency. I don't love third down efficiency this season. I don't love that we're throwing behind the sticks more often than we should, and we're not as creative as the NFL demands, especially with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. There's no reason for us to play it more old school. I would love to see that offense with a little bit more different offensive coordinator next year.
Yeah, I don't think he's not going anywhere. He is going to be the offensive coordinator. But I agree that he is a question. He was a question mark for me when he was hired, but he's a Jim Harbaugh favorite, and he has had success, but it was often in short spurts that didn't last that long. And we'll see. We'll see what he does. So
our next matchup was the Ravens and Steelers game, where the Ravens win 28-14. They will move on to play in Buffalo against the Bills.
It'd be weird if they weren't playing against the Bills in Buffalo.
Imagine. Well, we saw what happened this week.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone was overly shocked by this game.
No.
I do believe they were like 9-point favorites or something.
Yeah.
And it felt like that the whole time. Like, I don't even really think it was as close as the score. I mean, it was a 14-point game. It didn't really feel like that. The Ravens just kind of did their thing. And the big question mark for the Steelers going forward, obviously, other than Mike Tomlin, and I guess the fact that their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, is somehow interviewing for head coaching jobs. I did say he interviewed with the Bears today, and I saw someone say
So did Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I saw someone say that on Twitter. I forget who it was, but they said that this satisfies the Looney rule, and I really liked that. Just like really like middle school humor, and I love it.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. 10 out of 10. That's great.
Yeah, but Mike Tomlin, obviously, he's never had a losing season, whatever.
He's never had a winning
but
season.
What's their quarterback situation going forward? I believe Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are both free agents. And what are they going to do? They don't have a young guy, save for Justin Fields. They don't have a young guy under contract to build towards. And there are a lot of possibilities this offseason in terms of available quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But
you do have it's not a strong quarterback class. You have a lot of teams who may be looking to hold on one more year with a veteran who they can sign to a 1 or 2 year deal.
And I think there's going to be quite a few of them. And I think the Steelers are going to be one of those people. Do you think they stick with one of those two guys? Or do you think that they are going to move on to someone else? You had to make a gut decision.
This year?
It's funny you asked. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Drew Lock, Jared Stidham, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, blah, 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 down the list. Teddy Bridgewater, Russell Wilson.
Jameis would be a vibe.
It would be fun. I think that Mike Tomlin would lose his mind.
He would. I think he might actually quit. There would be no more No more firing rumors. Mike Tomlin would pull any Antonio Brown on the sidelines during a game. I don't know. I'm inclined to say that they keep Russell Wilson for another year. But I also think Russell Wilson's gonna have a similar situation to last year, where he's going to face a bunch of 1-year deals, and it could be up to him to decide. He is what he is at this point. Like, he's not prime Russell Wilson, but you kind of know what you're getting. And I don't doubt that the Steelers, similar to, listen, I know Mike Tomlin is a great coach and he has a winning season. It seems similar to me, right? Like, you know what you're getting. Why experiment if it seems good enough for now? Which I know is not a formula for a Super Bowl, but that kind of feels like where the Steelers organization is at right now. So I could see that still being a fit for them next year.
I kind of feel like it's going to end up being Russell Wilson as well.
Yeah.
I tend to feel the same way. Maybe
I'm intrigued about the Najee Harris.
Well, yeah, that's of course going to be interesting because they didn't obviously sign his 5th-year option.
Yep.
He's going to be a free agent. He had a pretty good year this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steelers, a lot of question marks, not really a lot of answers, and not really a ton to like. They have good players, but everything kind of is coming with an asterisk, it feels like, in Pittsburgh, and there's not a ton to be excited about in my mind, especially with the way that you end the season. I mean, again, it was just kind of a game. It happened. It had to happen because that's what the rules of the NFL say, but never really felt like an actual game. So
yeah. And the Ravens are out there doing what they've been doing.
Yeah.
They had some ebbs and flows this season, but for the most part, this is what they've been doing. They've been putting Derrick Henry on the ground with 186 rushing yards and Lamar adding to it with his 81. Lamar Jackson throwing 2 touchdowns. And the usage of Isaiah Likely throughout the season has been quite interesting with Mark Andrews disappearing, like literally MIA at the beginning of the season, and seeing the way they've been working together to open up the offense was quite fun.
And this week with Zay Flowers out, especially, there was a lot of Isaiah Likely.
A lot of Isaiah Likely. So fun to see, and I'm excited for that game next week. Very excited.
It's shaping up to be a classic. I mean, that's what you hope it's going to be when you've got Lamar and Josh Allen.
Yep. You have the two front runners for the MVP. Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw a tweet that was like, these two fan bases have been beefing for weeks, like just kind of in anticipation of this, that this is like going to be one of the all-time hater bowls.
I don't even think it was in anticipation for this. It was all about the MVP, and now it's just like the NFL scriptwriters decided, oh, this is the best way that this could go. Yeah. It will be the most toxic game of the week by far.
Yeah, for sure.
Contrary to popular belief, that will not be in Philadelphia because not all of our people. I don't know if it's just Philadelphia Twitter, but the guy that like lost his job and stuff. Yeah. Okay, with the Packers fan.
Yeah, with the Packers fan saying very mean things to that woman.
It's my yearly like. Just like it.
Go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
I don't even like. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's not always like. I know it's always Philadelphia. But that's only because when it is Philadelphia, it gets national attention because it's quote unquote always Philadelphia. Stuff happens in every game, in every stadium for every team in the NFL, but most of them just get swept under the rug in a day because no one gives a crap. But all of a sudden it happens in Philadelphia and everyone's like, Philadelphia, they're always the worst. It's like, weren't there like 3 murders a couple years ago with like the Raiders or something? It's like,
no.
It's just annoying. It just pisses me off. Every time any opposing fan does anything bad on Twitter, you'll always see me quote tweet it with a "Wow, I hate Philadelphia Eagles fans." It's crazy that they disguise themselves as blank fans and stuck into whatever stadium. I don't think it's that clever, but I keep doing it anyway. So pisses me off. But the guy's a piece of crap, obviously. Like, not defending the dude. He's a piece of crap. But there's pieces of crap everywhere.
Yeah,
it's not just
they did. I think he was fired from his job.
He was.
If you don't know what we're talking about, I'm sure you can vent it on Twitter.
Just look up. Eagles harasses Green Bay Packers fans.
Yeah. You know who harassed me the most when I was in Philly? The children. I was very scared of them.
Those have been some funny videos. There was a really good video like week 18 against the Giants where there was this woman walking away and there were like 6 kids all like.
They're scary. They are terrifying. When you and I had went, it was like what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yep.
When we had went, it was fun. But I also like, this is not about that one video because they handled that better than I would have. But I like, in those situations, you can tell when people are being fun, in like
Oh
having
yeah,
it in a fun way. So like, I can play back into that. I'm not gonna be one of those people that's like, wow, like they were all like, some people
yeah,
just over exaggerate it. Like
of course.
that's football. So it was fun, like for me with the adults, but those kids, man, I can't say anything back to them. One, that's not fun.
I
You
disagree. You
can't,
definitely can say
not
things
to the
back to
same
them.
level you can with the adults.
I
Not to
think
the
you.
same
I think
level.
you can match their energy.
Yes, yes, but like the way you can play it with adults is you have to play it a little different. And
That's
they
fair.
are scary. They are very scary. And they're always in a gaggle. Always. They're
A
very
gaggle.
scary. Yeah. All right, so Ravens move on. Next, you already know who's in Buffalo. They beat the Broncos 31-7, and will host the Ravens. So we can talk about the Bills in a little bit. Anything you want to say about the Broncos?
I mean, this was quite a game for the first half. I mean, the
Yeah, first
Broncos were
half.
leading 7-3 into the first. Bills took the lead 10-3 going into the or 10-7 going into the half, and then they scored 21 unanswered points to end the
Yeah.
game. So obviously, the second half wasn't nearly as fun. But honestly, it felt like it's a crappy game if you're a Broncos fan. But the Broncos
Yep.
team had a lot of signs of life that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. Bo Nix would probably be getting a lot more attention if Jaden Daniels wasn't Jaden Daniels.
I said that during
Because
our midseason award show.
yes, you did.
Mhm.
And he just continued to play, like he continued to get better throughout the season pretty consistently. You saw some signs of life from the Broncos skill players as well. Marvin Mims, who was a draft pick, I want to say like 2 years ago for the Broncos, a speedster. He got involved toward the end of the year more. Obviously, Patrick Surtain had an all-pro season. I believe he was on the all-pro. I said that without, I'm like, he had to have been. But he was incredible. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of things to look forward to for the Broncos. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they follow up this season. You know, what off-season moves are they going to make? What are they going to target in the draft? That's what I'm excited to see.
I agree.
Because I think my indications from this season is that they found their quarterback. And it's just going to be a matter of how high his ceiling is. I think we already know what his floor is, and it's very solid, and I think Sean Payton's only going to help with that. But now it's just a matter of what do you need to put around him to see him really succeed? So,
Yep. I am happy to eat my words about the Broncos from the beginning of the season. I wasn't like mean, but I was not high on Bo Nix, and I was not high on Sean Payton going into the season. And I'm happy to admit I was wrong. They were a lot of fun to watch this year. And I think while there are no moral victories in the NFL, you can walk away from this season with your head held high with a rookie quarterback and a roster that's not up there with the best of them. Even though it's been consistent and it's been decent, it's not up there with the best of them. You could only compete so far, in my opinion, for the Broncos this year. I think you can walk away from this season with more knowledge than you walked into it, and with your head held pretty high with a good understanding of what your next few years look like.
agreed.
Next, we have the Eagles, who beat the Packers 22-10. The Eagles will host the next playoff team. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles defense was really, really great. Jordan Love threw three interceptions. And took sacks after not really throwing many interceptions in the last like 10 games or something, to whatever stretch it was down the season, as well as not getting sacked a lot. They got to Jordan Love. They turned the ball over, and the offense did enough that every time that the Packers scored and brought it within one score, the Eagles offense did what they needed to do to drive down the field and score. The Packers are a very interesting team. Obviously, they had a lot of injuries in this one. A lot of people were calling it, the current day body bag game. It just felt like their wide receivers were dropping like flies because they were. And I think the Packers are one of the more interesting teams this offseason because Jordan Love obviously got, a pretty good sized contract after last year. He had a great season. and then beat the Cowboys in a big upset in the same game, by the way, in the 2 to the 7 seed in the playoffs. But that's also 2 years in a row where you're the 7 seed. The 2 of the best teams in the NFL were in your division. You went 1-5 in division games, barely
Yep.
beating the Bears for your only win in division.
Yep.
Again, back-to-back seasons being the 7th team, where a couple years ago you wouldn't be in the playoffs.
Yep.
I'm sold on Jordan Love, but again, how good is he? Your skill players, Josh Jacobs had a great year, but he's only going to keep getting older,
Yep.
like any running back. The offensive line definitely has some good players. They had, I think PFF had their right tackle as an All-Pro.
Mhm.
I don't think he was actually the All-Pro. And you've got, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, all of whom
Yep.
are good. Christian
But they're
Watson's
like,
going to be injured. But yeah, where's there's not really a star.
they all
So
lay on the same level.
yeah. And the defense is solid. Obviously Jair Alexander didn't play in this game, and you've got some really good players on that defense, like Xavier
Mhm.
McKinney, who had an awesome season. But it's just a little tough to know exactly where they're going to go.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
good enough is not going to cut it in the NFC North right now.
No, it's not, because the
It's not.
Lions seem like, the Vikings are a little more up in the air. I don't think anyone really ever bought this season from them.
Yeah.
At least not on the level of, almost being the 1 seed in the NFC.
Mhm.
But in a very
But it's
similar
not the
vein,
NFC South. Like
exactly.
that, you know what I mean? It's not the NFC South where winning a few games will get you the division. It's not that.
Yeah. So yeah, sort of almost like the Steelers minus the quarterback question. And it's just,
Yeah.
I think Matt LaFleur is a good head coach. He
Mhm.
obviously started out his tenure in Green Bay really hot. I'm not sure if he's missed the playoffs, to be honest. I
don't
kind of
know.
feel like he hasn't. But regardless, you still have a lot of questions, and you want to know,
Yeah.
how far can Jordan Love take this team? Is he going to be able to take that step forward next year that maybe puts him into an MVP type consideration and has
Mhm.
them competing for the 1 seed, like the way Aaron Rodgers was just 2 years ago in Green Bay, and
Yep.
3 years ago when he was the MVP as well? So
Yeah. It's a great question, but I wish I had the answer to, because like you said, I do believe in him. I just think it's it feels very monotone.
yeah,
I think is the best way to say it. Like everything feels fine. Like
grayscale.
all of the wide receivers feel on the same level to me. All the tight ends feel on the same level to me. The offensive line, if you accumulate them, it's like they're a fine to me. It's like that's how it feels to me. You need standouts. And I feel like Jordan Love has been that, but it's not working enough. Like he's been good, but he has his flaws too. He's still younger. Like you have to try and build this up a little bit more.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's well said. It's a lot of really close to greats,
Yeah.
if anything.
Agreed. Oh, hold on. There was one thing I wanted to pull up that I had sent you that fact checked in the first quarter, 2nd and 8, 1 minute left, that was Jalen Hurts' first career under center drop back pass that
Yes.
did not feature play action.
Yep, that's very true. Jalen Hurts is pretty much, well, obviously he's basically
Mhm.
never run under center, even
Yeah.
play action or running the ball, like a straight up run.
Yeah.
Before this season, he was almost never under center. It was almost entirely shotgun. And this season they've done a little bit of it, but obviously, yeah,
Yep.
that was his first like regular drop back. And I know, like, it's weird. Like,
Feature play
I don't
action.
normally notice that kind of stuff in the moment. I noticed that in the moment. I was
Yeah.
like, he just did like a 5-step drop and passed it to AJ
Yep.
Brown for a 10-yard completion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Sick.
saw that. And like, that's one of those that's like, is that true? Like, come on. And it is 100% true by True Media Sports.
I guarantee you, completely understandable for anyone to think, is that true? Eagles fans knew immediately that was true.
Yeah. So
at least
it
depending on
does
how
say
closely you
here,
follow it.
this was from Nate Tice from Yahoo Sports. So he says 100% true per True Media Sports. I found 2 other plays labeled as center non-PA dropbacks that weren't spikes from 2020, but upon further research, they were essentially bootleg plays against the Cardinals in Week 15. So his first one under center without play action. And there was one other thing I sent you. If we go back one game, that Tim Tebow is the only quarterback drafted by the Broncos to win a playoff game.
Ever?
That's what that said. Yeah.
Wait, who was John Elway drafted
I
by?
didn't fact check that. But
It has to be like since a certain period of time because
there's no like Penn State small
was
tiny
John
font on this.
was John El who was John Elway drafted by? It wasn't. It had. Oh my God! Wait, was it the Baltimore Colts technically?
Yeah. 1983.
Oh
Baltimore
my God!
Colts.
Yeah, I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, and I thought that as soon as you said it, but I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of who was I confusing? Oh, I was confusing him with Jim Kelly. That's why, because Jim
Oh.
Kelly also did the thing where he's like, I don't really want to play for this team, but he ended up playing for Buffalo. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's Tim Tebow. Only one. All right, on to our next game. The Commanders beat the Buccaneers.
Wait, real quick. Inner Focus jumped like 53 million% in sales on Amazon and became an Amazon bestseller overnight.
Yes.
And it was bombed on the reviews in a good way by Eagles fans, which was very funny. However, my favorite review that I saw only gave him 4 stars and said, just came from the broadcast. Tom Brady sucks at announcing. 4 stars.
I had seen someone make a post that was like that that photo of AJ Brown on the sidelines in uniform reading a book is going to go triple platinum in Philly public school pictures, like printed out for Philly public schools.
Also, it's just the most wide receiver thing you could
Oh
ever
my
do.
God, by
And
a landslide.
I love it.
Landslide.
I love
it was an interesting read, like the reporters who had asked him about it afterwards. It was an interesting interview, like to hear him talk about why he likes the book and like certain one of
he had a highlighted passage. He had a bunch of highlighted passages.
Yep. So there was one in particular. It was a very interesting read, and like I could see why that would be a good thing to do during a game, especially with the year that AJ Brown has had, right? Like the drama around it all and all of that. So like this grounding technique that he does is really interesting. So if you've ever been to therapy, you can see where that thought process would come from a therapist. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. So I do recommend reading up on what the reporters asked him afterwards, because it was pretty cool. But very wide receiver. And sticking in the NFC East, the Commanders beat the Buccaneers off of a doink to end the game, 23-20. They will move on to play the Lions in Detroit.
It had to be the best game of the week, right?
Yeah, fair. Oh, that's
maybe the only like good game.
The only good one. The only good one.
Yeah, I don't. None of the other ones are really good.
No.
Not consistently. This one came down to the last play of the game, which is like all you can. And
the hair fixing.
Yeah, shout out to OCD. And anyone that has to deal with that. I've seen it in people that I know and people that I love, and it can be very tough. So shout out to Zane Gonzalez. If you don't know what I'm talking about, what Ashley was, I guess, mimicking with her hand is he talked about this a couple years ago. That's the only reason I said it was OCD. But basically, before he puts his helmet on, he was constantly fixing his hair in a very compulsive kind of way. The C in OCD. And it was very interesting to watch. And obviously, he doinked in the game-winning field goal. It doesn't matter; it still counts. But it was very, very fun way to end it. And a really unfortunate way for the Buccaneers to end the season. Yeah,
this was a tough one because like I wanted both of them. Like, it's been such a fun season for both of them. I am forever on the Baker Mayfield redemption arc train. I'll ride that until the wheels fall off. And the Bucs in general, I really like the Bucs. So it was a tough one for them, and a heartbreaking way to go out. Mike Evans did reach his 1,000-yard season again this season. But yeah, I mean, they almost got beat a couple years ago when Tom Brady was the quarterback for the Bucs and Taylor Heineke was quarterbacking the Commanders. And the Buccaneers went through, and the tables have turned, and the Commanders go through. Any thoughts about this game before I read some stats off?
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs played good football. I mean, Baker Mayfield only missed 3 passes. He was 15 for 18, only 185 yards, but 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans, 7 for 92 and a touchdown. And Bucky Irving had 17 carries for 77 yards. Meanwhile, on the Washington side, it was Jaden Daniels. Like, the dude just showed up on that fight. Like, he's so... He reminds you of like and I'm not saying he is, but he reminds you of an advantage that a guy like Lamar Jackson will bring on those late downs where
Yep.
you can go for it on third down and fourth down with a run play because, or, it changes the way you call the game. They say it all
Yep.
the time on Philly broadcasts about the way that the tush push changes the way you can call the game, because on
Yep.
3rd and 3, you're able
Yep.
to run the ball knowing that you only need a yard or two to get the tush
Yep.
push. And if it's 3rd and 1, you can go for a deep pass play knowing 4th and 1, you have an extra down essentially. And Jaden Daniels, he only had 13 carries for 36 yards, but there were some key 3rd and 4th down conversions that they just don't have if Jaden Daniels isn't the quarterback.
Yeah.
Where he was just really impressive and he had the poise. And I think a piece of discourse that I saw following the game was really interesting in that, I think arguably the 2 most successful quarterbacks this season played a lot of college football. A
Yes.
lot of college football in Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. And it's definitely bringing the idea that we've known for a while. The NFL doesn't like developing quarterbacks anymore. They really don't enjoy it. Look at Anthony Richardson, who was extremely raw. He was a very young prospect entering the draft, but he hasn't had the time to develop, and they should have drafted him knowing that, hey, this is going to be he's going to need to grow over the course of his rookie contract. But already he's getting benched this year, and they're not having the patience that they probably should have known they need to have when you draft someone like Anthony Richardson. The NFL wants their quarterbacks to perform now, and I think you're already seeing like Drew Aller, who I don't know if he would have been the top. He definitely would have been the top quarterback, but he probably would have gone first round. Going back to stay another year at Penn State and hone a lot of his skills and get more experience, because you're just not getting that experience in the NFL, not with the leash that you have in college when you're a 5-star recruit and, a multi-year starter and trying to win a championship, and not to mention the whole money of the NIL and all that. But I do think that is changing in that quarterbacks are not I think guys like Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix are starting to change the way, along with NIL, the way that these prospects are looking at entering the NFL draft. And of course, as I say that, Quinn Ewers just earlier today, this being Wednesday, declared for the NFL draft rather than stay another year. But still, I think
his future was kind of uncertain at Texas to start.
Well, yeah, 'cause right behind him is Arch Manning.
Yeah, Arch Manning. So my thing with that is I do think there's a couple factors at play. One, the thing I will consistently bring up until the wheels fall off on this one is that the NFL has always been results-based, but has switched to immediate gratification. Without that, you have time to develop quarterbacks. You have time to see guys like Anthony Richardson out more, right? Like he was benched, played, sat up. Same with Bryce Young, right? We saw his development in the second half of the season. You see the changes that can be made in a short amount of time, but it takes so much time and effort, physically, mentally, emotionally, from the staff, from the players, and it's a huge change. So it's really hard to make that development at that stage of football when there is immediate gratification needed to succeed here. Like with your fan bases, with your ownership. I mean, we're owned by ownership groups and all of this, and you have stockholders and all of this that you have to answer to, right? So like it's immediate gratification based. Second thing for me is NIL, and I don't want to get into like a whole spiel right now, but there's pros and cons to NIL. I get that. But the reason these players have the ability to focus on their skill more and stay in college and develop is because, one, they're more financially literate. The schools have put more of a premium on educating players around finances coming to NIL. Like a lot of these colleges have NIL departments that work with the athletes to educate them on the contracts they're signing. So I'm not saying they weren't before, but there's a good possibility they're more financially literate now. And they have the financial flexibility to do this, right? So you had so many players in the past who jumped into the NFL when they had the chance because I'm young and the money's here now and I might as well take it because I don't know anything could happen. And yes, anything still could happen, but you have that your buying power right now, right?
You're
Like you
probably
have the
making more
market
money.
yourself.
A lot of players are going to make more money in a
Fair.
year in their last year in
Yep.
college than they will their first year in the NFL.
Yep. When you're
That's
the
the
biggest
reality.
star and you're promised what you know what you're buying at that level. When it's your first year in the NFL, you don't know what you're going to be. The best player, you look at Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? Like
It's yearly free agency. You're not signing multi-year contracts.
Yep, exactly. My one comment about the game before we move on, because we're going a little slower, is that I really love how fairly effortless, non-flashy, and community-based the Washington Commanders offense is. Truly, you never really know what they're gonna do in not a Detroit Lions way. They're both great, but to me, the Detroit Lions feel more flashy, more like what are they gonna invent right now?
Yeah.
Whereas the Washington Commanders are learning how to use their playbook in like the perfect way, seeing the resurgence of Olamide Zacchaeus, all things like that. You know, like the way the offense is working is just like a fine-tuned machine, and they know what they are, right? And I want to give so much props to Cliff Kingsbury. We gave a lot at the beginning of the season. There was a little bit of a hiccup right there in the middle, but they have really ironed that out. That middle part where they struggled with the offense a bit, and even without an incredible amount of yards per play, like it's not this huge, big, flashy offense. It's this machine that's like they have such a fine balance, and I think it's been really fun to watch Cliff Kingsbury run this offense.
Yeah, I mean he's getting looks at head coaching opportunities, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. He came back from like the beaches of some island and then just was fine. Wild. So last game of the wild card round was the Los Angeles Rams, the Vikings at the Rams, technically. Yep. So if you have not been around, there has been a bunch of wildfires across LA. Our hearts go out to everyone, our prayers, our thoughts. They had to relocate the game. So they had a contingency plan set in place a couple days prior. They were waiting to see, and it resources the safety of everyone, players, coaches, travelers, all of that, fans. They decided to move the game to State Farm Field in Arizona, where the Cardinals play. What an incredible job the Cardinals did. That must have been tough feeling, right? Like you're helping out, but that's a tough feeling, right? You're transforming your stadium into one of your division rivals' home stadium. They transformed the merchandise shops to Rams merchandise shops. They tried to make that feel as home as possible. Even though the split was 51-49 Vikings fans in the stadium, they made that announcement during the broadcast.
It would have been the same thing in LA.
Same thing in LA, but they really did a great job. The Cardinals lent a plane and flew players, coaches, families, pets all out to Arizona. The Rams wore LAFD hats, and it was an incredible showing. It was what a game tied with emotion. I was crying before the game even started about the Vikings talking about Kyrie Jackson, sobbing. Like, what a game full of emotion. And it was a good game, but it got tough there. I mean, it was pretty bad. Yeah, but so I mean, it was good if you were the Rams fan, but it was the Rams beating the Vikings 27-9. The Rams move on and will meet Philadelphia in Philly. Yeah, what a ride for Sam Darnold this season. The last 3 weeks, yeah, it kind of went off the rails. It's been a lot.
I mean, eventually something's going to revert back to what it actually is, right? It's going to revert back to the mean. That's a statistical theory or whatever, and it's pretty accurate in real life, in practice, and that's kind of what happened. I mean, I think Sam Darnold is better than he was with the Jets, at least at his worst times with the Jets, but he's probably worse than he was for the majority of this year. I think that's probably the reality. And we're going to have a long offseason to talk about where he's going to go. Is someone going to pay him big? Is he going to stay with the Vikings? Who knows?
Yep.
But ultimately, I mean, Sam Darnold didn't show up. He wasn't the only reason they lost that game, obviously. Their defense was great all season, and they didn't. The defense was just not that outstanding, but Sam Darnold made it hard on them with turnovers, and he just wasn't that good. I mean,
no. And they have JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
Which was supposed to be their plan for this season.
Yep.
Yeah. Their offense is what it has been. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys are still on contract through a little while. I'm just looking at their future real quick. Obviously, you have TJ Hawkins and Justin Jefferson signed through 2028. I'm pretty sure Jalen Naylor and Jordan Addison are still there next year.
Yeah, they're on their rookie contract still.
Yeah. So I don't know about the running backs. Aaron
Jones is a free agent.
Okay. Yeah. So interesting. Any thoughts on the Rams? What a wild for them too. Wild season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is gonna bite me in the butt if they come out and they beat the Eagles. But like, I just don't think they're that impressive of a team. I think they're good. I think they're solid. But I mean, their defense hasn't been their defense has been all right. But just to read off, like, people, the big conversation is about, Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, their running back, whose name is escaping me, even though I had him on multiple teams in fantasy this year. But like, to end the season, this was their offensive production. 27 points, 25 points. Those are the last two games. 13, 19, 12, 44 against the Bills. That's a big one. 21, 20, 28, 15. Like, there's nothing in that was that impressive. They were worse more often than they were showing out and that good. And, people are talking about, oh, they weren't healthy against the Eagles. That's not true. They were healthier than the Eagles. The Eagles were missing Jordan when they played earlier in the season when the Eagles won 37-20. Jordan Mailata missed that game, and we had Devontae Smith miss that game, and I believe I want to say both linebackers missed both of our starting linebackers missed that game. Granted, Nakobe Dean's also now out. That was also the game where we lost Brandon Graham for the season. But yeah, I think the Rams got a really good draw in getting the Vikings because I didn't believe in the Vikings. And I think, honestly, they were fueled by a lot of emotions, which helped.
Oh, yeah.
And a veteran presence that knows how to, handle their business. Where the Vikings, I don't think, are that team. But now you're going to go up against another very, heavy leadership, good in big situations. They were in a Super Bowl 2 years ago team in the Eagles. So I don't know. I don't think too highly of the Rams overall. Like, I think they're a fine team, but like, ultimately they won a weak division, or what ended up being a weak division.
Yeah. And it was they started 1-4. 1-4. Went on a run at the end of the season and won weak division. It's basically the NFC South. So yeah, it like, for me, they're like better than what we thought they were going to be at the beginning, like the first few weeks of the season. I'm proud they made it that far, and I think it takes a lot of grit and is really hard to keep your head on straight in situations like that, like this week. So props to them for that. And I don't know that we see them again after next week, but we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, they're playing the number one defense in the league. So
yeah.
Before we kind of move on, two things that I think have been a strong piece of discourse that I have very strong opinions on that I just want to touch on real quick. Both having to do with generally the same topic. One, we should not have the 7 seed. There's no point. It's stupid. I like that it existed for this period of time, because still the only team to lose to a 7 seed is the Dallas Cowboys to the Packers last year. The 7 seeds, other than that, have been mostly teams that are getting blown out.
Yeah.
The Eagles have been that more than, I think, at least once. I don't think they were the 7 seed last year. But the first year the 7 seed was a thing, the Eagles got blown out. Don't really deserve to be in the playoffs, and they get blown out. Like it's just taking a bye away from the 2 seed. And I'm not saying that as a salty Eagles fan, because honestly, I was fine with us playing. We got a bye week 18. It didn't really matter ultimately because of the situation we were in with the division. But it's just I don't see the point in it. I really don't see the point in it. I think it's stupid. I think it lowers the overall competition.
Yeah, and like wildcard weekend as a whole is kind of like skippable at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at
It's
least two of
not
the
fun to
games are,
watch.
because 2 of the games are 7 seeds.
Yeah,
Like,
it was not fun to watch this weekend.
no, yeah, it wasn't really. I don't know. I don't think they're not going to do it, because I guess it technically results in 2 more games overall in the playoffs, which means more money.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
it's stupid. It's worsening a product. And then the second thing,
Yeah.
which I am so sick and tired of, is shut up about the 14 win team having to play on the road in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Shut up. Shut up. Do not do the NBA thing where you're just throwing away the divisions. I think that would be the worst thing the NFL could do. Because here's the difference. Divisions in the NBA don't matter because they play 82 games. Divisions in the NFL matter so much. 6 of your 17 games are in division.
Yeah.
That is more than a third of your games. That is so many. If you look at the Packers. They went 1-5 in division.
Yeah.
That matters.
It's a really good indicator too.
It's an extremely good indicator. Like I'm sorry, but there has to be some level of like, yeah, you did really well against the teams that you have to play the most in the season. Like, it'd be one thing if you only played your division teams once in the season.
They have your number forever.
And it's just, I think they would be so wrong to just throw away the seeding and make it, like that'd be stupid. It would be really dumb because, again, divisions matter.
Yes.
In this, it's not the NBA, it's not baseball, it's not hockey. Divisions matter so much because you're only playing 17 games, and 6 of them are against the same 3 teams.
Yeah.
Every year. It's so important. It's so important, and there has to be some level of I don't care that the Buccaneers get a home playoff game without maybe deserving it. Or I guess technically it was the Rams that got a home playoff game without necessarily deserving it. Like, they took care of their business in their division enough that they, whatever.
Yeah, and it ebbs and flows to the point where it, like, maybe it didn't work out for you this year. Sorry, be better. Your division was tough this year. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, every division ebbs and flows, and getting rid of it is so stupid.
Yeah, and there hasn't been talk that they're going to.
No.
But it's just a discourse that has been so popular since that Lions-Vikings game week 18. It's just, it pisses me off. I hate it. I think it's very stupid.
I get it. Trust me. I got a
Win your
text
division.
from my dad. And a text from my dad that's like, why are they this seed? And I was like, let me explain it. My dad knows. He hasn't watched the NFL all season, so I think he's just confused.
That's fair.
Like, fair. It was this. He's a big football guy. Just not this season. He's been way too involved in college football. So he was like, "Why are they this seed?" I'm very confused. Yeah. All right. How do we want to do our timing wise?
Let's just save coaching stuff. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, so I'll just give one piece of news on the coaching. One piece of news on the coaching stuff is that Patriots fired heir to Bill Belichick, written in contract.
Actually, we haven't given any coaching news, so maybe just say everyone who got fired.
Okay. Honestly. Patriots have fired the heir to Bill Belichick, written in his contract to be the heir, Gerard Mayo, after one terrible, miserable season, and had a very extensive coaching search.
Yeah, we're going to need more time to talk about this.
Yeah, that one's going to take a while. And they hired, to everyone's surprise, Mike Vrabel. A lot of discourse on the Rooney Rule in that situation. Yep. So the last of the new other firings is Jets. That's not new. Need a head coach because they fired Robert Saleh. Saints fired Dennis Allen.
Not new.
Raiders fired Antonio Pierce.
That's new. After one season.
After one season, half an interim.
Yeah.
Jacksonville has fired Doug Peterson, which is big news, which we all have been knowing his seat was hot for a while.
I salute you, Doug. We'll always have 2017, baby.
Yep. Bears have an open seat after Matt Eberflus's departure, and Dallas and Mike McCarthy finally part ways. And what a story that seems to be.
It was like the worst breakup of all time. Neither of them could do it,
Yeah.
so they just kind of like silently left for college.
Yeah, and like apparently they didn't go to like they like didn't even get to like the actual contract part of it.
No, yeah,
Like,
because
they
he
didn't
didn't
even
get
get to
fired. His
negotiations.
contract expired. To be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
and they waited a week to do it. Oh, Dallas, you're so stupid. You're so stupid, and I love it. You make everything worse for yourself. So Jerry,
good.
Never die, Jerry.
Stay
Never
forever.
Die. Did you hear that an Eagles fan like said that to Jerry Jones?
No.
Well, I believe it was after one of the Eagles Dallas games. Jerry Jones said in an interview that an Eagles fan like came up to him after the game and told him that he was doing a great job and to keep doing what he was doing. And I just like I love it. I love it. If I ever met him, that's what I would say. I hope he lives forever, man. Forever.
Keep doing what you're doing. You go, girl.
He's so bad.
One quote I want to read here is from CBS Sports on this. I know we're not getting into it, but I really had to talk about this real quick. So Jane Slater was reporting on some of what she's been hearing in the Cowboys front office.
Yep.
Jones had spoken with future Cowboys Hall of Fame tight end Jason Witten recently, and the 11-time Pro Bowler was part of a plan Jones had for McCarthy's second Cowboys coaching contract. NFL media reported on Tuesday night. The reported setup was for Witten to be the heir apparent of sorts to Mike McCarthy, who is 61 years old. That's when McCarthy reportedly walked away from conversations with Jones to continue as coach of the Cowboys. Witten does not have any NFL or collegiate coaching experience, but he has won back-to-back state titles with Liberty Christian, a private school in Argyle, Texas in 2023 and 24. His first state championship victory in 2023 led to Witten being named the Whataburger Coach of the Year by the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, so like totally great plan. I love it. Do it.
I hate they're so good and bad at things.
That's the Cowboys.
I love it.
That's the Cowboys. We'll get into that at a later date, but that's just some brief news. A lot of notable names. Same ones we've been talking about for a couple of years. Ben Johnson's always at the top of that list.
Aaron Glenn, the other giant, coordinator for the Lions.
Yep. Deion Sanders is on the list this year. Swears he loves Boulder, Colorado, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about our matchups for this coming week. So, first off, we have Texans at Chiefs on Saturday at 4:30. I'm trying to grab the line on that game. Hold on. I didn't write it down. Any thoughts?
Chiefs are coming off well rested. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to win because I guess they signed a deal with the devil this season. It hasn't felt like they've deserved to win a game in like 3 months, but they just kind of kept doing it. So
they're 8.5 points.
I don't know. They're 8.5. That's so many.
It's so many, but for some reason I have a really weird feeling.
I don't
know.
Not with them. I'm
not saying it's true. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
after you name your middle son Bronze and your next child Golden,
aren't they all girls?
I just said middle child, so it goes.
I swear
Sterling.
You said son.
Did I? Oh,
I swear you did.
Okay, maybe.
I could be wrong.
My whole point is that we go Sterling, Bronze, Golden.
No, yeah, it's
like that's. I saw a tweet that was like
rough.
that's how they would frame it in like a children's book to prove that like people you weren't loved. Like you deserve to lose.
It's rough. They probably won't though because the devil or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. Given our time, let's just a quick thing you're watching for, and who do you think's gonna win?
All right. Well, thing I'm watching for. I'm really excited to see CJ Stroud against the Chiefs defense. That's been great under Steve Spags. I'm curious to see how he does in the big lights and under a really good defense. And I'm just gonna shoot for the stars and say the Texans win just for fun. I don't really fully believe that, but I'm just gonna say it.
I guess if you're choosing them to win, then they're gonna cover. I'm gonna take the Chiefs, and they are not gonna cover because they're gonna miraculously win when CJ Stroud's throwing arm falls off, which is going to somehow count as a fumble that gets returned for a touchdown with 0 seconds left on the clock in what would have otherwise been a tied game. I don't know how his arm fell off, but he's fine.
Yeah,
So,
he's like good though. It like
yeah.
iguana grows back. All right. The Commanders at Lions.
Do you have the line for that?
Oh, let me grab it.
What am I watching for? I don't really know,
Lions
to
are
be honest.
9.5 point favorites.
9.5
Wow.
points favorites. I mean, Lions have been really good. Honestly, I think it's going to be Jared Goff against Dan Quinn's defense.
Yeah.
They've had a solid defense. Dan Quinn is a very smart head coach. He's a very smart defensive mind, and I'm intrigued to see what he tries to do to throw off Jared Goff. Obviously, it's going to be exciting to watch Jaden Daniels against a pretty bad Lions defense. Maybe not bad,
Yeah.
but injured
Yeah.
and beat up. But yeah, I think it's going to be the Commanders defense versus Jared Goff. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
It's gonna be that Commanders run defense for me. They've allowed a lot of running this year, so Jahmyr Gibbs is waiting in the corner like a weird like shadow haunting creature waiting to get ya. You know, like he's like waiting in the wings to run.
Get it.
So that's what I'm looking for. I think the Lions walk away with this one.
Do they cover?
Necessity. Yes.
All right. I'll take the Lions to win, but the Commanders to cover.
Okay. Next, we have Rams at Eagles. The line on this one is Eagles 6. 6 point favorites.
Yeah, it's going to be the Eagles defense. I'm really, 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 really intrigued to see what's going to happen in the middle linebacker position. Oren Burks, who stepped in for Nakobe Dean, who's having an awesome season. He got picked on last week, so we might see the first real action alongside Zach Bond for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. If he gets a sack and does the Axeman celebration in the link, then it's Eagles by 1,000. I mean, it's just that simple. But yeah, the best defense in the league, Jalen Carter had an outstanding sophomore season, along with the rest of the defensive line having a good year. Quinyon Mitchell had a great game last time against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp when they weren't in the slot. But yeah, it's going to be that defense and shutting down this Rams offense. And I think I'm torn because ultimately the Eagles offense is just going to do what they need to do. And that might be Saquon ran for almost 300 yards last time against this team. But I am getting hints of like a just to shut everyone up kind of game from Jalen Hurts, because he does this thing where like there's like a 5-week stretch where they don't throw the ball and everyone's like, Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball. And then he constantly is like, no, just because we don't doesn't mean we can't. And then he goes out and he throws the ball and everyone's like, holy crap. And he's like, yeah, that's what I said. And then they just do it again in like another 5-week stretch. So I kind of feel like this might be one of those, but
yeah, my big winning and covering.
Eagles covering.
Okay. My two things I'm looking at. One, Eagles defense in terms of can we use what we saw last week and
Kyron Williams. That's the running back.
Oh.
Couldn't think of the running back earlier.
We saw Matthew Stafford face blitzes on like 70% of dropbacks. I think the number was he was 14 and 18 completions, 14 completions of 18 and passing attempts. So he was doing really well against the blitz. So like how creative can we get to try and force pressure that works? And my other thing is the Rams pass rush. It was like tied for the most sacks in a wild card game. I think was the exact, I don't have the exact thing. I think it was tied for the most in a wild card game. Sam Darnold faced like the most pressure he's seen. And I'm curious to see how that's going to impact the Eagles offense.
And Eagles also, do they cover?
Yes.
Lowest line of the week so far.
It's not, though. I have the next one.
Well, that's why I said so far. Quick shout out to Zach Bond, a dude who nobody knew existed this time last year, who is now a first-team All-Pro linebacker after never having played inside linebacker. So just a big shout out to him.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really,
cool.
if if he had a name that wasn't Zach Bond, if his name was Patrick Queen, he would be the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay.
But his name is Zach Bond, and nobody knows who he is, which is fair.
Yeah.
But if his name was Patrick Queen, if his name was the dude out in San Francisco, his name is escaping me, he would be a favorite to win a Defensive Player of the Year. That's how good of a season he's having. It's stupid. So shout out Zach Bond.
All right, last game of the week, we have Ravens at Buffalo. The line is Baltimore 1-point favorites.
Baltimore. Wow. That's interesting.
I'm going to double check the line I have on my phone just to make sure that's completely accurate, but I have Baltimore -1 on there.
No, I mean, I believe it. Yeah, top to bottom, it really feels like Baltimore just has a more talented team.
Yeah.
They might be without Zay Flowers, which I think ultimately will hurt them. And it is not that
1.5.
What?
1.5.
Ravens?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But honestly, I saw the Ravens lose to some good teams this year. Although I think statistically that's not actually true. I might be making that up. I don't know. I thought their record would be better. But it wasn't. They did lose to the Eagles. I think that I'm remembering. Their point differential against like playoff teams is ridiculously high. That's what it is. But they did lose to the Eagles. That's why it was sticking out in my mind. I don't know what it is. I think we're gonna get. I think the playoff struggles are going to continue for Lamar, and I think Josh Allen is going to just will this team to a win. They won a lot of games this year. And even though I picked them to win a crap ton of games this year, regardless of the fact that, they just don't have a ton of talent on offense outside of Josh Allen, and they have holes on defense, they just did. And I'm just going to stick with that. I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I think they're going to cover because they're going to win. And what am I watching? It's what does the Ravens offense look like without Zay Flowers? Is it going to continue to run through the tight ends? And what is Buffalo going to do to try and stop that?
Yeah. Fun fact. I love my weather fun facts, right? The coldest game Lamar Jackson ever played was 27 degrees, and the coldest game Derrick Henry ever played was 22 degrees. And we're supposed to be a whopping 8 degrees at kickoff, with about 40% chance of snow in Buffalo.
Derrick Henry's never been below 22 degrees?
That's the stats I have.
That's shocking.
22.
I guess, it makes sense. He played in Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, the snow aspect bodes well for the Ravens.
It's supposed to... I disagree with that. I don't know. I mean,
it makes them more one-dimensional, but at that point,
I don't think it's a significant advantage because it's not like the Bills are going to get hurt by it. I think.
Okay, I can agree with that, but I do think it bodes well for. I think in the game plan of this, I think that bodes better for the Ravens.
So this is the way I look at it.
Okay.
Whenever I complain about the field for the Super Bowl that the Eagles were in, 57. And everyone's like, oh, well, everyone played on the same field, blah, 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 blah. Both teams dealt with the same issues. Okay, but here's the difference. The Eagles led the league in sacks and had the second most sacks all time. What they lost by the field being the way it was a lot more than the Chiefs lost. They both lost the ability to really rush the passer in any meaningful way. But because of how strong that was for the Eagles, they lost more. I feel like by taking away the passing game, you're not taking away the passing game, but I think you're lowering the cap overall more on the Ravens offense than you are on the Bills offense.
I disagree.
I mean,
if you're lowering the capacity for your passing game, and you have to rely more heavily on your running game. I'm giving that nod. I just say this is any game anywhere, right? Not anywhere. You put them in a video game and you lower the capacity for passing plays and you raise the capacity for running plays. I'm giving that to the Ravens.
Yeah, but who does it take away on the Bills that you were already scared of?
In passing,
Yeah. Who were you scared of?
Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dawson Knox.
Okay, so
I mean,
now
it's
on the other side of the Ravens.
Is Zay
I
Flowers
would.
playing next week?
He's injured. I kind of don't think he's going to play. Even if
Yeah.
he does play, I take Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Zay Flowers over all the guys you just mentioned,
I can understand that, but I am
and Rashad Bateman for that matter.
but if I'm raising the cap on the running game, I'm taking Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson over
Yeah, but
Josh
I'm not
Allen and James
raising.
Cook.
I'm not raising. Both running games are already good. I'm just saying you're lowering one thing. It doesn't necessarily raise the other. Yeah, you're going to do it
Yes.
more.
Yeah.
But just like the way that I view it is you're still going to throw the ball. It's just going to make your throwing offense less effective. But since you're still throwing the ball, it's not like that means ultimately like this incomplete pass made the running game better. Like, no,
Yeah.
it made the running game worse.
Yeah.
Because you threw an incomplete pass. I don't know if it's the right line of thinking. That's just the way that I'm looking at it.
I can understand.
I think that the Ravens have a more talented offense.
I agree.
And in a world where snow limits offenses and makes offenses worse, why wouldn't that be better for the Bills?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Derrick Henry is terrifying. That, of course.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. So my thing I'm looking at, this game is the fun one for me. I'm just gonna have fun. So I'm looking at my MVP race. It's not even the finale. The votes have been cast already, but what in my head canon is the finale of the MVP race. And yeah, this one's just going to be so much fun. That's really what I'm looking forward to. I'm not even going to try and analyze this too much really over time, but I think I'm taking the Bills. I think that's where my heart is in this one. I think statistically I should say the Ravens. Logically I should say the Ravens. But I think I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. I think home field advantage is going to play a little bit in their favor. Weather is going to play. They're comfortable there. In that they, no matter what happens in a lake effect snow game like this, if you live in Buffalo, get your shovels ready. They'll ask you for help again and feed you one peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But yeah, I'm taking the Bills.
Oh wait, I had a thought and then it went away. I was thinking it that whole time and then I lost my focus at the very end.
Right at the very end.
The very end of your sentence. I know I had something too.
Damn.
Oh.
Well, maybe there we go.
If whoever wins this game loses the MVP, the fans are going to be insufferable.
Riot.
Like it's just going to be insufferable. It's going to be so. And I say that as someone who has probably said very similar things when like Jalen Hurts lost an MVP.
Very, yes.
I get it. You'd be insufferable.
From one insufferable fan to another, you are insufferable.
Absolutely, you will be insufferable, and you have every right to be. If Josh Allen balls out and Lamar falls flat on his face, and the Bills win, and then Lamar wins MVP, like it's gonna be insufferable.
How do you feel about season? Like one sentence. How do you feel about season voting before full season? Like, are you okay with it at end of regular season? It's a regular season award. Like, okay, just making sure.
If that's what you're gonna call it, then you should vote after the regular season, and I agree with it. However,
I agree.
The insufferableness is completely earned.
Yeah, agreed. Duncan, we are running over time. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me curled up in a ball, sweating profusely while watching the Philadelphia Eagles, as I do every year during the playoffs.
It's been so cold.
Because I deal with a lot of anxiety focused around the Philadelphia Eagles, and my mental health depends greatly on them. Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75, and I guess you can find me on that Chinese app, but I don't know what my username is, and I think you just have like a user ID maybe. I'm not really sure, but don't look for me there, please, because probably never going to post anything.
mpduncan75. You could find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's in Ashley. You could find me watching The Wire. I've gotten really into The Wire. I went viral the other day for talking about The Wire and my favorite character on it, and then one of the actors is actually sending me a sweatshirt. So you can find me on season 2, episode 1 of The Wire, and with my new sewing machine. Other than that, you can find me, Duncan, and the entire Undroppables crew on our Discord channels by becoming a member at patreon.com/theundroppables. You could find me and Duncan live Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can watch us back on YouTube or listen to us anywhere you put music and other things in your ears. We hope to see you next week. We hope you have a lovely playoff viewing experience. And have a great night.
Go Birds.
Bye.